Welcome everybody to our last Power BI user group of the year. Good to see so many faces today. So we definitely have an exciting agenda today. We have a guest speaker, but we'll start off with today's meeting with some introductions, Power BI overview if there's anybody that requires it. Typically, this user group has been, pretty active for the last year or two now. So if anybody needs a Power BI overview, just feel free to raise your hand in the chat and we could, discuss. We're then going to move into a feature presentation where we have a guest speaker today. I'll let him introduce himself when the time comes, and he's going to be talking about Cosmos Link and Power BI. We'll then move into a paginated report demo. So a lot of you on the call may have heard about paginated reports, and you may have never actually seen them in practice because they are a Power BI premium feature. Sure, you could download Power BI Report Builder, but if you've ever actually began sharing those types of reports, those pixel-perfect reports, there may be some mysteries around the topic. So we have a video presentation for you in regards to that. Graham on the call, I'll let him introduce himself as well. He's going to go over some monthly for November and October. And then finally, any questions, conversations, anything fun and exciting in the Power BI world, we'll definitely use the time to discuss.
Hey, Casey. Sorry to cut you off, but I think we're actually going to move the new monthly features to before our feature presentation tonight. We're just going to slip that in at the start.
Sounds good to me. All right. So if we want to do some brief introductions, we always like doing these, especially with some new faces on the call. I'll go very briefly. So my name is KC Philcox. I'm a lead consultant with Tallan. Recent BI challenges, I'd say in this moment right now, dealing with the stresses of dealing with COVID data. A lot of people need their data and they need it fast, so that's my biggest BI challenge as of in this moment. What do I like to get out of this user group? I like talking to people about an exciting product of Power BI. I like learning from other people and hope to continue to do so in each meeting. Anybody want to give an intro?
I'll go next, Casey. Hi, everyone. I'm Doug Smith. I'm an IT strategy consultant now, and I help companies figure out what to do with their technology and how to use it in lots of ways, and one of my favorite ways is using data. Oh, I'm with Nextdrop Consulting, and my recent BI challenges are learning some of the, I'll say, less enterprise sources of business intelligence and trying to bring them together for smaller companies. And I'm pushing Power BI, so trying to stay on top of its new features.
I'll go next. This is Jared Brown, VP of Data and Analytics at Tallan, and one of the co-founders of the user group. So ironically, one of the things I wanted to get out of this group was, helping the community keep up with the latest additions to the Power BI platform. As it turns out, everything has been so busy lately that I need to now come to the event to see the latest updates. So glad my team has kind of taken some of the reins here, but and also glad that so many people can attend.
I'll go next.
Yeah, all you, my friend. All you. I'll go after you.
Okay. My name is Michael Thomas. I am the Chief Data Scientist at Kesbrook Analytics. We're a boutique data science consulting firm. One of my recent BI challenges, I'll go old school. Excel, thinking everything is a date. And I am looking forward to some of the updates in Power BI because, to be honest, I haven't touched it in a while. So excited to hear what's going on.
I'll go next. My name's Adam Furr. I'm the controller here at Tallan. Recent BI challenge, I think it's more bonus driven. So we kind of created a nice platform through BI to kind of track different compensation aspects. So that was a fun one. And what do I want to get out of it? So Jared sent me over a new tools for income statements and balance sheets. So being the accounting side of things here, it's pretty interesting on the BI side.
Hello. Can you guys hear me? I'm Daryl Moffat. I'm actually in Sacramento, California. I like to join you guys because I just enjoy going all over the different countries, seeing the different, now that I can with COVID, right? So it's been kind of nice. But I'm in a construction business, and we're kind of slow when we make changes, especially stuff like Power BI. And it's been a challenge to get it rolled out, but when they get it, it's a huge deal for them. They just get so excited when they see something like Power BI. They've been seeing spreadsheets for years. So I'm just here to learn.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. Michael DeGrucci. I'm a data architect. Currently COVID unemployed, but I'm actually working on a couple of projects for the Department of Defense. One of them using database, SQL Server in this case, to coordinate activities in the Air Force and coordinate the workflow through SMS messaging. And the other one relates to this, which is I've got the same people asking me to set up a data analytics environment for them. So we'll see how that turns out. So.
Hey everyone, my name is Graham Atkinson. I'm a senior consultant here at Tallan. I'll be talking after this about the Power BI feature summary, but I do spend almost all of my time with Power BI. So I do have a lot of challenges with it. I think my most recent one was I got a question from a client about where does the presentation layer go in Power BI? And it's really a question that is best answered by the case-by-case basis, whether that presentation layer should actually be built in the Power BI segregated, whether it should be built in SQL directly as part of your data source. So that's always a challenging question to answer. What do I want to get out of this? I want to show you guys some cool stuff, some cool new features, and see a lot of new faces. I'm excited to see so many people on the call today.
Hi, my name is...
I'll go next. Oh, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, I'm David Villegas. I work with Health New England, a health insurance company in Springfield. And recently, I've been working and learning about data flows, how to set them up, how to use them, how to get groups of users to use them. And what am I looking to get out of this group is just to learn about the new features that are available.
Hi, I'm Scott Burdick. I'm the Director of Applications and Reporting for the University of Rhode Island Foundation and Alumni Engagement. As far as my challenges, the challenge is finding enough hours in the day to spend as much time as I'd like to in Power BI. And as far as the user group, I just, it's always good to get another look at the monthly update and the features, as well as looking at other examples from other organizations and how they're using the tool.
Hi, I'll go next. Hi, this is Sharath. I'm one of the presenters today. I work for Underwriter Laboratories. Recent BI challenge, a couple of months back, we had to set up RLS row-level security on one of our dashboards we have in UL. It was a bit tricky. What do I want to get out of this group? I like listening into all your conversations. It's great to learn from your experiences. That's what I'm looking for, other than presenting today. I'll be talking after Graham. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lori Yekelchik, and I'm from Henkel Corporation, and I'm a project manager for data analysis in a project management and reporting. So we did a lot of work for Power BI, and I'm engaged for every reporting what we need to be done. So I'm just looking for new feature, share some information, and so on. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yep. Hello. My name is Yaroslav Prokopis. I'm an instructor at the University of New Haven. So one of the difficulties I have with Power BI is just to keep up with all of these new updates and features they have, and I'm looking forward to learn here some new stuff and share the experience.
All right, awesome. If anybody has any intros we missed, just let me know later on in the call. But appreciate everybody, dropping in, saying hi. Good to see some familiar faces as well as some new people. So without further ado, I think we get started. A few logistics, I guess, before we go into some of the presentations. So we've been meeting every other month. Hopefully that's been working out for our regular attendees, but this has been working out, so hopefully you can join us month by month. The leadership roles, VP of programming, is still open. Basically, we're looking for people for guest speakers like we have today. If you have any interest in putting together material for the user group, just feel free to reach out to myself, Jared, or some others, Gina and Sam, who help put together the event. And if you're part of an organization that wishes to sponsor the user group, we're definitely looking for those opportunities as well to help. Anything to share some new stuff to the group is welcomed. So if you're not already, make sure you leverage Meetup to see when the next meeting is scheduled. But more preferably, if you're not a member already of the actual Power BI user group, you go to pbiusergroup.com, find the Hartford page and sign up. We have a bunch of discussion posts on there where you can ask questions, and the community that are on this call today can help you through some issues, as well as hearing about announcements and next meetings. So this is inaccurate. As mentioned, we're going to have a slight change to the agenda. Graham is going to step in and he's going to do some feature summary demos.
All right, great. Thanks, KC. So I will share my screen. Can everyone see what I have on the screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to be going over the monthly updates from October and November. The update list was a little bit on the lighter side for these 2 months, but there were some important ones, so we will touch on them as we go over them. So starting in the top, in the reporting space of the feature summary, there were Canvas watermarks added in October. I will talk a little bit about what those are, but essentially they are kind of guidelines for newer users to Power BI to guide them along the way of building a report, bringing in their data, just where they should be looking and what they should be doing for their first experience. So kind of a new user tutorial, which is quite nice. The personalized visuals options is now generally available. So before, I believe this was in preview. It's now just available out of the box for all visuals. And additionally, in the reporting section, the data point rectangle select, which we actually talked about for the 2 previous months, they had just started adding them. It seems to be a common theme that they're adding a new visual supported by the data rectangle select. So that was added for the tree map visual, and I will show that off after this quick 2-slide demonstration I have. I have a quick demo laid out, but that's a pretty straightforward one. In the analytics section, we now have the capability to export data directly from a visual produced from the Q&A tooltip. So the Q&A in Power BI, allows you to ask a question or basically search for something in your data, and it will create a visual for you. And now you have the option to export that directly to Excel. In the service area of the updates, there were some changes made to the new look experience, and this was back in October. So at this point, they made some changes to their release plan. It has since been released. We'll touch on that in the November section. In the data connectivity section, there's a new preview feature available, and this is the most exciting part for me, for dynamic M query parameters. Now, if you haven't used parameters before, or much of M, it might be a little confusing, or you might not exactly know what I'm talking about, but I do have a quick demo set up for this, and I'll go over it and why it is so exciting for me. But that is really cool. I'll show you why. On the other side of the page here, we have some changes to visualizations. So most of these are changes to visuals that are not out-of-the-box visuals. These are visuals that you can import into your report. But they added many visuals to their list of importable visuals, and then they made updates to some of the more widely used ones, the ones that have their names listed out here. And they change up their editors picks every month. So this was something they added a few months back, where there's now this editors pick section, where basically someone from the Microsoft team selects the cool visuals of the month that they want to share with people. And you can go into that section and look at some of those cool visuals. And then finally, Power BI has a new icon. So if you've used Power BI in the last 2 months, you've probably noticed this. But now, instead of that kind of orange box with the data bars in it, the visual has changed to just 3 yellow data bars. You'll see that once I start doing my demo, if you haven't seen it already. It's a nice, slick new icon. So that's it for October. Let's move on over to November. So in November, again, it's rather light, but a lot of these changes in November were preview features, and some of them are quite cool. So starting at the top here, one of the preview features that was added was a new kind of look and feel to the field list, which is that right-hand side of the screen in Power BI Desktop that lists all of your tables and your fields. They didn't really change the look of it, but they definitely changed the feel. I will show that off as well, but mainly they changed kind of options that are displayed when you bring up the options window. There's now a tooltip that will display when you hover that gives some valuable information. And they changed the icons that will go next to your fields. So those icons are now more easily distinguishable as a numerical field, a text field, a date field, stuff like that. Going along with this, they also added support for a new model view. This is another preview feature. Again, if it says preview, that means that it is not out of the box yet. You have to enable this in Power BI. I will show off how to do that. It's really simple, but it's basically something that they're testing out and allowing users to experience as they test them out. But this new model view changes, much like the field list, changes kind of how the relationships in the relationships tab of your report, how those look, how those feel, drag and drop capabilities, and some additional capabilities for that pane as well. Below that, the apply all filters option is now generally available. I think this was another preview feature, and what this does is essentially, if you have a direct connection report, every time you go to apply a filter, it will reload the report and you'll have to reconnect to your data. You now have the option to, instead of going one by one and having to wait for it to load every time you change something, you can change all the filters at once, so you only get one reload. A visual zoom slider was added to, I believe it was just line charts, maybe off on that, but for the line chart specifically, I know that you can now kind of zoom in on the X and the Y axis and slide them with the zoom bar and kind of expand the data that you're looking at. Kind of a nice interactive tool for those type of charts. They also added data point rectangle select for map visuals. So like I said, they're kind of going one per month with this, but this just will allow you to select a rectangle on a map and it will bring up all the data points within that rectangle. And finally, some updates were made to paginated reports. I believe later in this presentation we have a section devoted to paginated reports, so I won't talk about that here, but some updates were done in November to that feature. In the analytics section, this is another really cool preview feature. anomaly detection has been added to Power BI. Another preview feature, so it's something you'd have to enable. And it's only supported in, I believe, one visual at this point. But this attempts to pick out the anomalies within your data and mark those for you, and just show you, these distinct data points are some anomaly, and it will even try to explain why it's an anomaly. And you can control what fields it uses to explain that. But some really powerful stuff there, really cool to see kind of more of the AI side of data analysis. But I will be showing that off in the demo as well. The Q&A pane now supports partial matching for data values. So in the past, the way the Q&A thing works is you type into a little search bar something you want to ask about your data, something you want to see, something, maybe a field you want to search to create a visual. In the past, you had to match things exactly in order for it to work correctly. Now you can do partial matching. So just kind of a nice ease of use. The new look of the Power BI service went live. So if you have used the service in the past month since November, you've probably noticed some changes. This was in the past available as a kind of opt-in. You could choose, I want to look at the new look. It's now the default. So now if you use the service, you will see their kind of new sleek look. And finally, our last item on the list here is several new visuals were made available for import. As usual, every month, Microsoft likes to add to their list of visuals that you can import. And once again, they've continued to do that. If you've never tried to import a visual before, if you go onto the marketplace, you'll notice there are a massive number of visuals that you can import. I always encourage people to play around and see if they can find a visual that they really like. So with that done, I will ask first, are there any questions on any of these points that I just went over? Nope, okay. Can everyone still hear me? No, yeah, great, awesome.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure. All right, so let's move into a really quick demo here. I kind of just want to talk at a high level about some of the more interesting points that I went over. So starting off, what I really wanted to show here was the new dynamic parameters with the M language. So first of all, let me talk about what a parameter is in M and what M is. In your Power Query editor, all of the queries that you have, you can view in an advanced editor. And this is a language called M that essentially shows you how the data comes in, how it's transformed, and then how it gets fed into your Power BI report. So this is M. It's different from DAX. It's one of the two languages that Power BI uses. And within this M language, you can have reference to parameters. And that's what this little section here is. This is a reference to our parameter called dynamic month. The way that I'm using this here is I have a reference to a Excel table called dynamic parameter data. And then I'm using a parameter to reference which sheet in that Excel file I'm looking at. I only have two. This was a really quick demo. But if you select November, it'll look at one sheet. If you select October, we'll go to the other one. So going back into the report, the way that this was supposed to work is when I click on one of these filter options, it would change the value of the parameter and therefore update which sheet I'm looking at. Something I discovered as I was putting this together was that this dynamic M parameter is actually only available in a direct connection. It makes sense if you think about it, because if you're changing the queries, it's going to have to reload data. And normally in import mode, you don't reload data as you switch filters. There would be some implementation challenges there, but the bottom line here is that you actually can't do this dynamic M parameter in import mode, and you can only connect to Excel in import mode. So I wasn't actually able to do this preview feature, but I can show you what it would look like. where if I edit a parameter and change the value from November to October, which would be accomplished by pressing the October button, say apply the changes, we're going to see completely different data in our bar chart. So really cool. Apologize that I didn't have the time to find a different data source that wasn't Excel to show that off. But there's a lot of stuff you can do with that. Not only can you change like sources and stuff like that, but you can drastically increase your efficiency or complexity of your operations. For example, the example that Microsoft used on the blog was a date range, where you can dynamically query depending on dates you have selected in a filter. Okay, moving on from there, really quickly, I wanted to show off the rectangular select on tree maps. So pretty simple. I just hold Control, drag my mouse, and it allows me to select a rectangle. When I release, everything that overlaps with this rectangle will be highlighted, which means the three sections that were not highlighted are no longer in our context. So pretty simple. As I said, they've done this for a number of visuals now, and it maintains the same functionality, just kind of adding another layer of interactivity with Power BI. Next up, I want to talk about the anomaly detection. So this is another really exciting feature. Oh, I should show how to enable it first. I said that I was going to do that. In order to enable this and any of the other preview features, just open up your file and go to Options and Settings, Options, Preview Features, and all the preview features that you have enabled are checked off. The ones that you don't are left empty. You can change these. Normally, they will require you to restart Power BI to be enabled, but it's as easy as that. You just check the boxes you want, click OK. So for the anomaly detection, you'll notice that this is just a line chart, but it has some kind of weird looking things about it. It's got this kind of upper and bottom kind of faded line. I'll make it a little more visible. And it's got this red mark over this kind of obvious anomaly. What this is doing is for each data point, it has selected a upper and lower bound to an accepted range of data. And if the data point falls outside of that range, it marks it as an anomaly. Which is done here. It's very far outside of the range. You can do a lot of customization about how this works. You can change how it's displayed, but you can also change how it's actually calculated. If we were to increase the sensitivity, let's just increase it to max. Click Apply. There's now many anomalies. Our sensitivity is so sensitive that everything that falls even slightly outside the range is marked as an anomaly. If we change the sensitivity to the bottom, let's not do 0. There's now no anomalies because the upper and lower bounds, they're actually so far outside of the actual values that we can't even see them on the graph. So really cool way to kind of go over your data, point out anomalies to you. You can also explain these anomalies by other data fields. So this data set doesn't have a great example of that. I have only 2 columns in this data set. I have number of sales and day. So if I were to do this, it's not going to have any actual explanations for me, but it will try to explain it by anything that is available. So if I had something like product being sold or buyers or branch that it's being sold from or season or any of these other types of fields, it would try to identify the anomaly and give you information on where that anomaly occurs within your data. So it will then put it on a graph for you, and you can actually add this graph directly to your report. Dragon. So some really cool stuff that you can do with that. I think we can move on from the anomalies, but just a cool way to explore your data. This is something that's been requested a lot, and it is only available in this line chart visual, but it's a good starting point for anomaly and data quality assurance. Last two things that I want to talk about are the preview features for the new field list. So the field list, I have enabled the kind of new look and new feel, and you'll notice it doesn't look a huge amount different. It has some kind of different colors here. It's got this sigma symbol next to my number field, and it just looks a little different than it used to. The real change in this new look and feel is the options that are available if you click on these, but moreover, the tooltips that it gives you. These are actually really useful tooltips. It tells you the name of the sales, which is pretty obvious, the storage mode, which is import, would be direct connection if I could direct connect. But then it also tells you the last time that this table was refreshed. That's pretty awesome. There's actually nowhere else in the report where you can view that except for the Power Query editor. So really nice to be able to see that right off the bat. And you can even refresh the data from here. So another new thing they added is just refresh that single table from the option.
The one icon that they changed that's kind of a nice one, and maybe we can create one now, is if you create a DAX table, it was only like slightly more blue than a regular table if you go into modeling. And I think it has a little calc. Yeah. That looks like the old one. That's strange.
It is a little blue. I can see it on my screen. You might not be able to see it through Teams, but it definitely is a little more blue. Yeah. So anyways, that's what I wanted to cover for that. The final thing that I wanted to show off was actually there's two other things. I think I'll skip this one. I was just going to go over the changes to the model, but I am running out of time, and I do want to show off this last piece here. So I wanted to go over the new watermark that was added to Power BI reports. So as I said, this is kind of a new user feature. So if you create a brand new report, we'll wait for it to load here. Always takes a little bit. Create a brand new report. We'll notice that right in the center we have this new watermark. So this just kind of explains to your new users, the first step is to get your data. And here are some common sources, or you can try a different source. They also have a feature to just try out a sample data set. So this is really cool for demo purposes. You can just load up sample data that Microsoft has made. I actually haven't done this before. I'm not sure how long it will take. Okay, cool. So it's really simple data, but we can just load that directly into our report. And once we've done that, this tooltip, our watermark will change, and it'll tell you our next step.
While that happens, it looks like the icon changed back for some reason for that calculated one. I'll paste in so everybody could see what it's supposed to look like. That's very weird because it just happened. I just saw it like the other day, and I don't know, maybe a bug that they had to fix.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, so anyways, data's loaded in now that we have data in our report. It tells you next step is build visuals with your data. It just tells you need to drag some fields in order to stop digging into your data. So really cool. This is not useful for people that have a lot of experience with Power BI, but when you're first exposing your users or people that are not familiar with Power BI to Power BI, just kind of that little extra assistance along the way is always nice. So that is all I had for the feature presentation and the quick demo. If there are any questions, now would be a great time to ask, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I actually have to run, so I will be hopping off the call in about 5 minutes. But thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thanks, Graham.
Oh, Graham, you didn't show the slider, the Zoom slider. Do you have that one handy? If not, I could bring one up.
I do not have it handy. I wanted to keep my demo a little bit shorter, but you can go ahead and bring that up. Yeah.
I don't have a great example, but I just happen to have this open here. Can everybody see my screen? Yeah, so this is just a COVID report, and just as an example, I think I only have it on one, well, maybe it'll be on both axes here, but if I click this visual and go into the paintbrush, I could turn Zoom slider on, and you could see here you get these little sliders, which is nice, so you could kind of zoom in and out. I mean, obviously, more effective if you have like a really small granular data set and you want to kind of see a little bit more densely, but that's kind of what they look like. Line charts, bar charts, and maybe some others like the scatter plots, but kind of a pretty cool feature. So you don't have to do things like this anymore where, you're only limiting this graph to like a certain number of weeks. But
Thanks, Jared. Sharath, I think that you are up if you wanted to share your screen, and you can start whenever you are ready.
I will. Thank you. And Graham, those were some interesting features, the rectangle select and anomaly detection. Good to know. All right, I'm going to share my screen. So I introduced myself earlier. I'll introduce again. I am Sharath Shivaram. I work as an IT architect with Underwriter Laboratories. So today I'm not going to talk about only Power BI. What happens before the data reaches Power BI. So this is a new offering from Microsoft, Azure Synapse Analytics. It went generally available, I think, a week back. So they have attempted to pretty much bring all of the capabilities into one single platform, and we'll see how and what all can we do in there. So one of the things, I'll give a heads up. I actually wanted to record all of the snippets on how to create the resources, how to run the queries and stuff like that. But unfortunately, the subscription that I was using through the week ran out of its credits and it was disabled. So I had to spin up a whole new subscription today. So we are be looking at me doing all of those right here. Okay. All right. Let me find. Let's go through. So what we'll look through today is basically the introduction. I'm just going to introduce what it is, what Azure Synapse Analytics is, and then what are the features that is available in it, and what's the underlying architecture, what are its key capabilities, and also, like I said, we will run through all of those capabilities that is possible in a new interface they have introduced called the Synapse Studio, and how we can do orchestrations between different components that we build during the analysis stage, and then finally how this can be connected to Power BI. And the most interesting part of it is that you can actually edit your Power BI reports directly in the Synapse Studio, and hopefully we'll be able to get till there and look at it. So I'll maybe rush through the first introduction slides. If you guys want me to slow down, just let me know. So let me go to the first slide here. So like I was saying, what has been done with Azure Synapse Analytics is they have brought all of those capabilities to bring in the data, analyze the data, prep the data, and run your models, and then even serve the data for visualizations all in one single platform. With this basically you are getting ability to run your analysis of data on any kind of workloads. So there are two different options which we'll look into. There is a dedicated resource option, which you can scale at whatever scale you want to. And there is a serverless option as well, which is pretty much on demand. It will scale itself. Now, with this scaling capability, they've also brought in the Azure ML integration. It is closely integrated with the Azure machine learning. So whatever data is there which you have analyzed, you can actually run machine learning models on top of it, and you can get much more powerful insights out of your data. And like I said earlier, right from ingestion of the data all the way till serving the data for visualization, all can be done in one single platform. So basically this gives that unified experience. And because all of this is available right at one place, you can run a lot of complex queries across your different data sets all in one place. And there is one piece I'm not going to show today, but hopefully in the next meeting, which is something called as Azure Synapse Link. So that basically provides you even an ability to query directly on your transactional data store, built only for Azure Cosmos DB. But that is somewhat mind-blowing. And then with all these features, they have still brought in the row-level security, the column-level security, the dynamic data masking capability, where you can actually limit the amount of information that is exposed out to your users. So now, if you compare it back to your traditional analytics scenario, right? So this is how generally, in fact, even in our company, there are some scenarios where we have set up the analytics like this. There are ETL jobs running on different data stores, and then that brings the information into a data warehouse. And again, we either put the data into separate databases and then run visualizations on top of it. Otherwise, we introduce the analysis service models on top of it, and then from the cube we do direct queries. But with the Synapse Analytics, what they've done is they have brought all of that into one single platform. So you can bring all your on-premise data, you can bring all your cloud data, you can bring in your data from CRM systems like Salesforce, Dynamics, all inside the Azure Synapse Analytics itself. It is closely integrated with the ADLS using the common data model. And then, like I said, you can basically visualize all of that information right in the Power BI editor, which is available again in the Synapse Analytics Studio. So how are they able to do all of this? This is very high level way the whole Synapse Analytics is set up. Like I was telling earlier, you can bring in pretty much all different types of data into your Synapse workspace or instance. And that is through the common data model or the integration that is closely there with the ADLS, the Gen 2 only. And on top of it, you have two different options for your runtimes, the SQL and the Apache Spark. The SQL is generally used for the smaller data sets, whereas the Spark, I think it is used for the big data. And all of this, again, it is available in the Synapse Studio. Just jump on to this piece here. This gives a much more informative view into the architecture. So you can basically run your workloads at any scale right in the Synapse Studio, and then it gives that SaaS experience there. There is very less amount of you have to write. And they've given support for all of these different languages, and I'll see if I can actually show creating one of the notebooks where I can add different snippets of code, and in one single notebook I can run these code snippets, each of the snippets in just. And like I was telling earlier, there is a dedicated resource that you can get, or you can make use of the serverless resource. And these are the two runtimes we just spoke about. So like I was saying, this data integration, it is using the, it is basically the common data model aware. So it is much more deeply integrated with the ADLS Gen 2 as compared to the data factories that we have today. So key capabilities, I think we kind of spoke about all of these. Unified analytics platform, everything is possible in one single user interface, which we'll look at. The cloud native HTAP, the hyper transactional analytical processing. So this is a capability that is available on Cosmos DB. And if you enable this on your Cosmos DB instance, then you can actually run direct queries from your Power BI workspace on the transactional data store, which was not possible till today. And like I was saying, you can do AI and BI all in one place because it is integrated with Power BI Workspace as well as with the Azure Machine Learning. I was talking about serverless and dedicated options and the deep integration with the data lake. We saw the list of languages which is possible to be used. And like I was saying, it is, lesser code that you have to write here, and you can bring things together all in one place. And there is a good monitoring capability. Previously we had, Databricks monitoring. You have to go into the Databricks workspace and do the monitoring there. You in your data factories, you have to do the monitoring in data factories, whereas in this case all of those monitoring can be done in one single place, that is the Synapse Studio. So without delaying, we can actually jump directly into the Synapse Studio. I'll just quickly go over how to create it. I think it is very straightforward, but I'll just go through it once. So you can go into the Azure portal and you or Azure Synapse Analytics, and it should show up one of the options in the services. And you can select the one which does not have the private link hubs, because this is the one that we are talking about today. So you just, so right now I have this that is already created, but if you click on add, that's going to give you a window where you can enter the resource group details, and then you have to give your workspace name, and then you have to select your region. And for people who are interested about the DR capabilities, there is geo-replication capability enabled, but I don't see it here. Then you have to give your ADLS details and then the file system inside the ADLS. So I will actually select one of this, and here it is not showing me the checkbox. I did a mistake earlier this week when I was actually trying to set this up. So there is a checkbox that you get, which basically enables the managed identity security on that particular storage account, the ADLS Gen 2 storage account. And if you don't check this checkbox when you create the Synapse workspace, later on, even if you actually go and manually provide that permission, it doesn't work really well. So this was one learning for me. And then there are other options where you can basically select the type of security and the networking options, where you can set up the virtual networks and stuff, and then you basically create it. So I'm not going to create anything now because I already have it created. So I'm just going to directly go into the instance. So here you can see all the basic information about it. And then this is very important. So there's workspace web URL. This is the URL of the Synapse Studio. So I already have it open. I'm just going to click on it. It's going to open one again. All right, here we go. So it starts with this piece which I was talking about earlier. It lets you ingest, explore and analyze your data, visualize and improve all at one single place. So if you open this pane here, you can see there are different options here, or the menus. You can look at all the different data that you have. I do not have anything yet. I know I have dropped the tables that I created. Yes, that is correct. We'll look at how to bring in data later. And then this is the place where we add our, our scripts or the notebooks for analyzing the data. And this is the place where we add our pipelines. This is exactly same as what the Azure Data Factory was. So they've pretty much added all of those Azure Data Factory capabilities and also an additional Synapse placeholder here. This is the monitoring section I was talking about. I will show when I'm running, if I get to run one of the Spark notebooks, then we can check how much of resource it's consuming, what jobs are running, and basically you can monitor all that. And this is the place where we'll start everything. So when you create your Synapse Workspace, the first thing you have to do is you have to set up your SQL pools and then the Apache Spark pools, whatever you want to actually use for analyzing the data. So you can see I've already created this. This is the one that I've created for the SQL, and this is the one that I've created for Apache Spark. Now I've taken all the smallest options. You can scale it up as and how you want it. So for creating SQL pool, it is very straightforward. You just go click on that new button, and then you can, this is the place where you can actually scale your instance and give a name. And generally I keep these the way it is and create it. Same thing for the Apache Spark pools. You can actually select your node size. I've selected small, and then even the number of nodes. So I've again selected the minimal one because I learned from my previous experience of spending $200 all in one day. And now actually let's go and start playing around a little bit in this. So what I'm going to do first is I actually want to show you guys one more thing. So we were talking about sample data in the Power BI features earlier. The same way they have provided something called as Knowledge Center, and you can access it from here inside the Synapse Workspace. And if you click on this browse gallery, they have given all of these different data sets that we can use. So today we'll be using the Hello Taxi trip records database. I will not bring in this entire sample. You can actually load this entire data set of, I think it is around 10 years worth of data, which has billions of rows. I'm just going to pick 1 year later and show how I'm going to bring that into the SQL data pool. So this is very, very useful because one of the biggest problems we have problems finding data when we have to learn these tools. So let's skip all of this and actually let's go to the browser itself. All right. So let's go to the data tab. So what we'll do is we'll actually I have the database created already, and this gets created for every SQL pool that you build, and same thing for the Spark instance. So the moment you build the Apache Spark pool, it'll create a database instance for it. So right now you don't see any tables here. We'll quickly go create one table. I have the scripts ready, and I hope I have not made any mistakes when I'm created the scripts. Let's run this. Okay, 3 seconds. It created this database. There are no records. So if I refresh this, I should see the table here. So what I will do next is I am going to fetch all of the 2013 data for the NYC Hello cabs and bring that in. So there is so this is the ADLS link for the other New York taxi data, and here you can say I'm just bringing only 2013. So this is already zipped. So what this statement is going to do is it's going to unzip it and then basically enter all the trip data into what we are told here, into the trip table that we just created. So let's just select this and shift enter. I think it is going to take around 30 to 40 seconds, but if I'm not wrong, it actually brings in around 2 to 3 million rows of data all into the trip table.
And Sharath,
Yes, sir.
I noticed the size that you picked, right? It was like $1.50 or something an hour, so like a pretty small, compute size. So pretty impressive performance considering that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, as the first instance that I created, I had it, I think, much more powerful one, and that used to run in like 10 seconds. It could bring in all the data. It's very impressive. So here we go. It is already done in 36 seconds. And so if I actually go and run this, okay, this is not good. So here you can see all the data is here. Let's see how much of data it actually pulled in. You can see it was around 2.8 million rows. So this is, yes, it is impressive, but I think later on you'll see it is able to do the whole Power BI piece. That's very impressive. So let's actually analyze some pieces of information here. So I have some pre-built queries that I'm going to run. So with this, we can actually check for different passenger counts, what is the trend, how much of average trip distance is there, and then, we can see how it looks like. So let's run this. I have done one mistake here. Let's take this out. So you saw it did that query in like 3 seconds. And again, this is in the smallest scale. So one of the good things about this is you can actually visualize your data right here in the when you're running the SQL scripts. So you have this chart option, and you can see some visualizations about your data. So here you can see that when the passenger count is 2, the average trip distance for somehow, I don't know why, but in 2013, they were traveling for more than 100 miles on average. You have different charting options here. You can select however you want to visualize your data, and then some settings on it. Not going to dig too much deep into this. We'll actually go into the Apache Spark side of things and look at what we can do there. So if you use this, I think I have to go to the develop tab. Yeah. So here you can see in the develop tab, you can either run your SQL scripts like what we did just now. Otherwise, the next option is for notebooks. So what I have done before I started presenting is I had created, it's interesting how I don't see it. I'd actually created a database. Anyways, it's okay. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to run this. So I am going to not do this. So this statement basically lets us directly pull data from the data storage, the storage account, and analyze by loading it into the data frame. It doesn't even go into the database that is here. You can directly bring the data right from the storage account. And this takes a minute or so to run, mainly because I can see that my pool is started yet. So what we can do is I'll show you how to create basically a new database. So if you see this statement, let's run this. Okay. So this is where I should have recorded. So if I see there is nothing that is running, there you go. It's actually running something in the background. So until this gets over, I will not be able to run my other command.
You might be able to kill it from there, unless it's running something that you're...
Yeah, I should be able to, yeah. All right.
Oh, maybe it stopped.
It heard you. All right, let's see if I can run this now. Yep. So it's going to take a couple of minutes for it to start. But if you really see what's happening here is I'm creating a new database here for the Apache Spark type, and then I am taking the data from the dedicated SQL pool, and I'm adding it as a table under the Apache Spark database. So I'll paste all of the other steps here, and we'll just go through it once, and maybe after that I can run all of them at once. So the next step, basically what we did earlier, we can do the same. That is, look at the passenger count versus the average trip distance, and then we can save it as a table. I can put it right here. And now this is interesting, where we can actually take this entire data frame and write it back into the data pool or the database as a separate table. So let me just correct this. DSP. So this particular statement would actually take that entire output of this and put it back into the original database where the trips data was pulled from. So it's if you really see this, it is more of an extract, load, and transform kind of a scenario here. So basically, the takeaway is we are able to access even the data between the two different types of runtimes that we have, no matter where you load the data. Okay, I think it's going to take much more time.
So while that's running too, just can you point out how this notebook is a Python notebook, but you can change the language you're using with those magic commands?
Yes.
Or even a different notebook if that's easier.
I'll actually do that. So by default, you can actually select the language from here. You can select between Python, Scala, C#, and the Spark SQL. Otherwise, like you saw in my commands I was pasting, you can mention what language you want to run each of these cells in by mentioning right at the beginning. So this was in the Python, right? And then the very first statement I think I was running there was right in the Spark. So by each and every cell, you have that flexibility of running that in whatever language you are interested in among this. And if you have multiple instances of the pools running, you can actually select from here what pool you want to run that particular notebook in. So when this is running, I'll actually point the same thing out in the SQL side. So here you can see there are two options. So this second one is the dedicated SQL pool that I created, but the first one comes by default with every instance of the Synapse Studio, and that's the serverless one. So there is a different billing option between these two. So here you are billed for whatever scale you have actually provisioned this particular pool, whereas the first one, there is something called as data warehouse units. So they bill based upon the number of data warehouse units you consume when you run your queries or analyze the data using that particular pool.
Yeah, and that could be pretty effective in certain cases. I think some of the numbers I've heard thrown around are like $5 per terabyte of data that you're processing. So definitely very affordable in a lot of situations.
Right. Yeah, so I played around this for almost, I think, 2 to 3 days. I was in there all day, and I was using one of the powerful options from a workload point of view. I had brought in all the entire data sets actually, and it still cost me around $170 in 2 days. So when we were talking, I was running the PySpark, the Python statements as well. So if you see, we have got the passenger count statistics here. And what we'll do is we'll take it from the Spark and we'll put it back into the SQL database. So let me run this. Okay, that's a 2-second work. So now I should be able to go back to my SQL script and then do what was the name I gave? Passenger. Right, there you go. So basically what we just did is we took this data from the SQL into the Apache Spark and then did an analysis and then transformed it to something else and then wrote it back into a different new table here. So this is pretty much what it was about both of these runtimes. I actually had notes to go into the serverless option as well. It is nothing different. You just have to select this different option here, and you have to point the queries, of course, to the right in the right way, and then run it. You would run the queries in serverless. I'll not go in there. I will actually directly go into the pipelines where I can show you how to actually run these statements in a schedule. So for example, imagine this, that there's this data that we have in the trip. If that comes in every day and you want to do this ELT operation every day, then you can actually take this entire notebook and then put it as part of the pipeline, just like what we would do in Data Factory, and set up a trigger on top of it. So let me save this. And I have to publish it. And once I publish, I should be able to see it here. So now all I have to do is I have to go create a new pipeline, and I think I had a pipeline here. So you can, once you open the pipeline, you should be able to go drag that particular notebook here, and you can set your name and stuff. Now you can drag multiple notebooks and then connect using these connectors, and you can basically orchestrate what should run in, basically these notebooks should run in what order. Now the best part is you can actually set up in the manage, I think, the triggers where you can tell, hey, I want that Apache Spark trigger set up, and you want to run it in a schedule. You want to run every day, and you can put end dates and all for this. So I'll just set this trigger just like this, and now you can see by default it is always stopped. You can publish it and it will start. So you cannot publish it because it has to be attached to a particular pipeline. So let's go in here, and then this was our pipeline. I can actually link the trigger with this particular pipeline. Now this is all good. Once I publish this, I have the pipeline published. I have the Apache trigger published as well. I think it's forcing me to publish everything which is unsaved. It's okay. I'll just publish it. So basically now what happened is this particular pipeline is going to run every day at whatever time I had selected, and then it is going to run this notebook as part of it. So now comes the interesting piece. So when this is publishing, I don't think we have to pay attention. So now what we'll do is we'll just connect the Synapse Studio with the Power BI. So like I said, this is a totally new workspace. I have not done anything with respect to Power BI. So for connecting it to Power BI, one of the prerequisites I saw is both this instance as well as the Power BI workspace, all of them have to be under the same domain. So when I was setting up this whole demo, I had to actually purchase domain in my name for setting this up. So I have the Power BI workspace here, and then I have the Synapse Studio. I can go to the manage section, and then in the linked service, I can click new, and either you can search for Power BI here, or it basically gives you an option to connect right from the top. So I'll just click on this. So I can call this whatever name I want to give, and then if it is connected to multiple tenants, then you have to select the right tenant, and after that it would basically load the workspace names from your Power BI service, and you can select whatever workspace you want to link this particular instance of the Synapse to. So I'm going to select that one workspace I have, and then I'm going to create it. So it takes 2 seconds, and then you have the linked service that is created. Now, if I actually go back to develop, you can see that this new option started showing up. This one was not there before, and then same thing here. The Power BI option starts showing up once you link that service. And I have tried linking this to other workspaces, the Power BI workspace, which is not under the same domain. It does not work. It does not show any of this. So right now here you can see there are no reports, no data sets. What we'll do is we'll start with the data set. So once you click on the data sets, you have the option to click on new Power BI data set. We'll click on this. It tells me which pool to use. If I have multiple SQL pools, it would show you. Right now I have just one. So the way it works is for this particular the SQL data pool that is there, or the database, it lets you download a file called as PBIDS file. So it carries over all of the connection information. So once I download this and open it, it directly opens it in your Power BI desktop. It is opening on my other screen. Let's give it a second, and you can see. Okay, I have to change my screen share because I can't drag it. Give me 1 second. Okay, let me know if you can see it now. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so I just opened that file that was downloaded, and then it directly carries over this connection information, saying it wants to connect to the SQL Server database in the Synapse instance, and there's the name. And what generally has to be done is you select the Microsoft account, and then click on sign in. I'm going to use my domain that I created. And then it is all signed in and connected. It carries all this information. So now I'll just connect it. And what I'll do is I'll actually, so right now it brought all those tables that we had created in that database there in the Synapse Studio. So I can select if I want only one or two, whatever, and I can load. When I load, it should give me option. So either I can import or direct query. Of course, we are going to select the direct query because that's the beauty of this. So let's select this, and it should create the connections to both the tables. And okay, I don't want this. So here you can see all of that information actually has come over. So let's just quickly visualize this. Let me use maybe a line chart, and then I'll drag. This should be good for a quick visualization. So I think this is what we were seeing earlier. You can see that only for the passenger count of 3, they were traveling for more than 100 miles on an average. So I will not do anything special because I know you guys are the experts there, but I will actually publish this right from here. Let's just save this. When I publish, it should give me the workspace. I'll select the workspace. I'll just publish this, and once this publishing is done, we'll go back to my other screen. Okay, this is good. I'm going to stop sharing again, and I'm going to share back that other screen. All right, let me know when you can see my primary screen.
Yep, we see Synapse.
Okay, so one of the things I have to do is, now after I've published it to the workspace, right, I have to set up some connections on the data set actually. So if I go to the settings, it should show me. So if you look at this, it gives you a connection error. So we just have to change the authentication method here. So we just save it, change this to OAuth 2, and then sign in again. Okay, now it is all good. So I can actually go and check this. Right, it is doing a direct query on that particular SQL database. So here it is. This is good. So if we go back to our Synapse Studio, now this is where all the magic is. So you can see your data set. And if I refresh this, fingers crossed, here we go. You can actually, so now right now everything is connected. You can actually make changes to all your reports, everything right here in the Synapse Studio. So this is what actually excited me the most because they've used the Power BI service to actually bring in the workspace capabilities right into the Synapse Studio itself. So this kind of covers up the main part of what I wanted to show. So if you look at it, we brought in data from different data sources. We analyzed the data, and then we transformed data and put it back here into the same database. And then we actually are able to directly query the data from the Power BI data set and look at the visualizations, change the visualizations all in one place in the Synapse Studio. Now, I think we kind of went here in the monitoring piece where initially we saw what jobs were running. So you can actually check for a lot of different things. You can check the status of your both the pools, the SQL as well as the Spark. In the SQL, you can see your serverless as well as the dedicated one. And in the Spark, you have the default one, which I created. And then you can even look at your pipeline runs. So I did the trigger, right? So if I actually go in and run the trigger now, it would actually show me the entire pipeline run, and I can drill down and look into what actions are, what steps in the pipeline are running currently. And this shows how many trigger runs has happened, whether it was successful or not. And then what this one is basically the different integration runtimes if you have installed. And I think these ones we kind of looked. So here are the Apache Spark analysis that we did, these two, and then this one is still running. And you can look at all the SQL requests that if you have made any, and then you can even debug your data flows here. That's pretty much what the monitoring tool gives. So these three options were part of the Azure Data Factory before. These ones are added new as part of the Synapse Studio. That's pretty much it. If you have questions, then I can answer. I was given time till 6:30, so we have 6 more minutes. I think we have 6 minutes for questions, if there is any.
I'll just say fantastic job. This was a great presentation. Covered so much amazing stuff beginning to end. And worth mentioning, a lot of this stuff just got released a week ago. So it's a lot of this is brand new to the general public.
Right. Thanks, Sharath. It's powerful. I can say that. And in the previous instance I actually had set up the live queries from the transactional data store, but unfortunately that got disabled. So I'll just show you guys how that architecture looks if you want to just understand that. So this is how it is. So when you actually configure your Cosmos DB, generally by default it is always in the OLAP style, and you have to enable the HTAP configuration, and right after that it actually creates two different copies of it in the background. So this is row based and this becomes column based, and there is an auto sync that is set up between those two instances. This is all masked out from our view, but this is what happens in the background. And when you actually use the Synapse link to connect to your Synapse Analytics, then when you run your queries, you would be directly querying the analytical store using the cloud native HTAP functionality. So you are actually querying on that, the direct transactional store, if you want to call it. And then I'll try to build some demos on this, and whenever I get one more opportunity, I will share it.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a great second event in the series. So whenever you're ready, we're happy to have you. There is one question that came into the chat. So if you develop a Power BI report in Synapse, how will you get that on Power BI desktop? And I guess the same question goes for, anytime you develop a report in the Power BI service itself. You still need desktop, even in this case, for that one data set, and then publish. But after that, yeah, you could use Power BI Desktop or the Power BI Service or Power BI in Synapse to do the visualizations.
That's correct. Yes. And if we are actually doing separately, right? So let's say for the same workspace, if we actually go and build some separate reports directly in the desktop and publish it to the workspace, that actually gets synced right back to the Synapse as well, as long as that workspace is added here in the Synapse Studio.
I don't know if that answers your or so you know what, could you is there a way to, since if you create another report right here, and I think you could just do it from maybe if you click on the data set, do you have an option to create a new report? Yeah. So what I'm wondering, say you just create something and save it, can you download this PBIX after you create it here? Maybe that's what the question was.
Let's see.
So now, just like Power BI, since you're creating this report as kind of standalone, it's going to be linked to that data set using a live connection. But if you, just go ahead and save it.
Okay. And then we should be able to see it here, if I'm not wrong.
Right. And can you download the, they disabled the download the PBIX. Interesting. Well, that's good. I mean, this did just come out, so maybe that's something in the making. Is there an option on the Synapse side to download it maybe?
Let's see. I know you cannot download from here.
Right.
No.
So I think it's mainly if you were to create the report in Power BI Desktop and publish it, then you could probably download the PBIX. So it's a very good question.
Let's actually check if we can actually download this one. Yeah, you're right.
So in general, from a best practices perspective, a lot of times we like developing the reports in desktop because then you can version control, the PBX file itself, but yeah, I might try a couple things out here too.
I did not know about this. This is good to know. That if we create the report directly in the Synapse Studio, we cannot download it and open it in desktop. Was there any other questions in the chat? No, this was the only one.
One other thing we actually came across by accident. The presentation that you were going through shows R integration as one of the languages. One of the folks on our team realized there's no R option in Synapse yet, so maybe that's still coming. It supports Python, Scala, Java, .NET, and SQL, right? But R isn't here, even though it was on the list, so a little misleading there on the Microsoft slide deck. But one of their CSAs that we talked to said, perhaps it's, on the roadmap, just not part of the GA, generally available release.
Right, possible. Good.
Oh, that's a good question. Does it keep all versions of changes on the Power BI reports for version control? Can you show the Git? Yeah, there you go.
So I am not sure if it is going to sync the PBX file. So we can set up the Git here.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm going to guess not, but if it does, that would be fantastic.
Right, I am going to make a note to try this out.
Yeah, so up till last week, you didn't really have the option to integrate with DevOps or GitHub, which was kind of a severe limitation with Synapse, because otherwise, how do you go back and, previous versions of the code, etc. So this was a great feature that just came out with the release. So.
Right. Okay. So I see a comment. I don't think it will sync PBI reports.
With source, with source version control or source control. Yeah, I would doubt it too, but I don't know. Maybe another a couple months we'll see that, because that's definitely been a limitation about Power BI in general.
Right. Cool. So if there are no other questions, I'll stop sharing. And thank you for this opportunity. This not only helped me come here and share this with you guys, but also forced me to learn it all within 2-3 days. It was great.
Thank you, Sharath. It was such a great presentation, and we can't wait to have you for a deeper dive for the next meeting.
Thank you.
And I guess with that, we will move on to James, who will be doing paginated reports.
Yep, so tough act to follow, but I will do my best. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. Let me know when you guys can see that.
You are all set.
All right, cool. So I'm going to be going through paginated reports. I will mention before we get started here, this is a premium feature, so you're going to need a premium workspace, or I'm not sure if they've set it up yet for like premium per user stuff, but at the very least, a premium workspace should allow you to do this. So just going to go through, first of all, the reason kind of for these reports. One of the main driving factors. So right here, I can show we have a fairly simple report. This is the sales order report. It's got sales order numbers over here in this table, the quantity of products related to any particular sales order, things like that. We've also got this nice pie chart over here, and we've got some KPIs and a way to search. So a couple of things on here. Obviously, we can do our cross filtering, and it filters our table here, or we can select the piece of the table we want to see. Also, of course, since we have this table here, we have a scroll bar on it, so we can go up and down in our table. But if we wanted to see this table as like if we wanted to send it out as a document, if we wanted to potentially print it, or if we wanted to email it as an image, something like that, we would run into a bit of an issue. So what we would see if we did that is if I were to export and run PDF, I'm not going to do that right now just because it takes a little while, but I do have one prepared. Like, let me see this one, I believe. And so, yeah, this is what it would look like if we were to export it. It literally just takes a snapshot of the report. That's all we get. Obviously, we have a scroll bar in here that we can't use. It's just a picture. So that's one of the troubles that we would see with any given standard report. When we tried to export it, we also wouldn't really be able to email this report out or automate a notification schedule with it. All we really have is the point in time viewing of the report, which of course is very useful, but there was clearly a need for some of that more, if anyone's familiar, SSRS type of reporting in Power BI. So what Microsoft did was they introduced something exactly like that. What they added, I'm just trying to remember which one it is. We've got the sales order report. Yeah, actually, sales order. There it is. All right. They introduced this way to create a paginated report, so you can repeat lines of information per given products. Well, that's unfortunate. Oh shoot, I think I know what's wrong here. Give me 1 second. I think we just changed the data source. Let's move this over here so I can secretly update that.
So while you do that, James, when Microsoft was talking about premium per user, which some of you may have heard, it's basically you pay for a use of premium resources on a user-by-user basis instead of the $5,000 you need to buy a dedicated P1 node. They did say that the paginated capabilities were available with that. So that might be an option if you want to play around with it before making the larger commitment for premium. Premium per user is in public preview right now, so you could sign up. It might take a little while to get access, but it's basically free to use until it goes into general availability, which is probably early next year. So might be a low barrier to entry if you want to at least play around with this paginated stuff in the meantime. I haven't confirmed that actually works, but that is what they said.
All right. So yeah, thank you, Jared. So got those credentials sorted out. Now we're seeing the report itself. So this is the sales order report. You can see it's kind of the same thing as what we were seeing before in that table, but now we have this whole list of table, and we have this option up here to move pages backwards and forwards. We also have this nice header that follows us to each page and this footer that updates with the page number and the time the report was generated. So a lot of nice sort of features here that you don't get in the sort of GUI Power BI. We can also export this one. So if I were to export it to PDF, I can show you what that looks like. We would come up with a report almost identical to what we're seeing on the screen. We would be able to take this and we could email it to someone, and it'd be very easy for them to open it up and poke around and just sort of see all this information. It would also potentially give us the ability to more cleanly export to things like Excel, where this data could be actually stored in a table and we could potentially do some reading on it. Of course, you can also do that with tables in Power BI or visuals in Power BI, but this is just the actual structured set of data that we might be able to play around with a little more. So the way that gets set up is with a new tool that you can download. So this is not Power BI. This is not Power BI Desktop. This is Power BI paginated reports. So the Power BI Report Builder is what this is called, and To anyone that is familiar with SSRS development, this is probably going to look very familiar. But I will go through what we're really seeing here. What we're seeing is up here we've got our header. So above this dotted line right here is our header. This will be repeated on every page at the top of the page. This little icon and the report name, so it grabs that from the actual report up here. And of course, our footer below this dotted line will be this expression that we have. And this expression is just basic information generated at a time. Here's the number of the page. Here's how many pages total, so on and so forth. And then in the center here, this is sort of where a lot of the magic happens. This is the body of our report. So within the body of our report is where we put things like tables, sets of data that will be repeated until a data source is depleted. This is really where we start building out that report itself. And I'll just go through really briefly up here. You can see we don't really have data sets in the same way that Power BI has data sets. We have a data source, and that's a database that we've connected to. And from that data source, we create data sets. Data sets are in Report Builder similar to our queries that we build in Power BI. So this is the sales order data set. You can see it's just a select statement from this database with some joins. It spits out some columns, and it connects to the AdventureWorks data source. Actually, I'll go in really quickly and just show you. We don't have as many data source options in paginated, but we do have some of the more common ones: SQL, Azure SQL, Teradata, Oracle. So pretty standard stuff. Though we could also connect to Azure Analysis Services, where we would be able to do some more of that Power BI type data mashup that we're used to. All right. So going into sort of the creation of the type of report we just looked at, what we can do in here is we've got the option to go to Insert, and in here I can insert a matrix into the body. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to choose the matrix wizard because it makes things a little more friendly. And I'm going to select sales order as the data set. So this is just the table over which we will be repeating until we reach the end of. I'm going to hit next. And now that I have this open, again, people who are familiar with pivot tables, this will probably look pretty familiar. But basically what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to take the sales order, let's say the name. Yeah, we'll use those. So those are our row groups that will be repeated. And then we'll use, let's say, these guys, the quantity, the price, and the line total as our values. And so you can see it's going to sum those up when we actually put them in the matrix. So I'm going to hit next. I'm going to disable subtotals and subgroups, grand totals and subtotals, just because it'll make it a little easier, but know that you can have them on there if you wanted them. Also, group expands and collapses, I'm turning those off. What that would allow you to do is within a given sales order, you could roll up the sales order and not look at all of the individual products in the sales order, or you could look at the sales order and then the products. So it gives you that sort of like drill in capabilities. So I'm going to hit next. And this is just giving me a preview of what it's going to look like when I hit finish. And lo and behold, that's exactly what it looks like on our screen. Now, to anyone unfamiliar with SSRS development, this is going to look kind of lackluster. This doesn't really do anything here. What I can say is you have what we have in here, a couple of expressions, names, things like that, and the quantity that we asked for. We can expand these columns as needed, so I can make the name longer, I can make the quantity shorter, I can do all sorts of things like this. Now, obviously this doesn't really tell us what our report looks like, so we have a couple options. I could send this up to the service, or I could hit this run option, in the Home tab to get a preview of what the data will look like. And so you can see in here, again, we have our header up there. We have, we'll have the footer at the bottom, which it's not playing nicely right now, but yep, there we go. We have our footer. It was actually auto-scrolling with me. That was the issue. But we can also go next, last, previous, standard stuff. So you can see how that grouping, when I said, all right, sales order number and then name, that's the sales order and the names of the products within that sales order. So we have that. If we had allowed for expand and collapse rows, we could have rolled these names up into the single sales order. All right, so that's how we would recreate the report that we saw on the service. But let's actually make something a little more interesting this time. And I'm just going to take this guy and I'm going to delete it. So first, let's bring in some additional data. I'm going to go to the data set. I'm going to add a new data set. What do I want in this data set? I'm going to call this the products data set. So the products data set will just be a list of all the products in the database, basically. And I'm going to select the AdventureWorks data source again. And now I could write a query in here, or I could use the query designer and have it write the query for me. So within here, I can go to this sales LT schema in the tables. That's where our entities are that we're interested in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few different fields here. I'm going to take the name, the product number, what else? How about the list price and the thumbnail photo. So we'll actually be able to show a photo next to each of these products in our list. And then just to make it a little more interesting, I'm going to take something from this product category table. I'm going to take, let's say, the name. I think that's probably good. So now, as you can see, we've got information coming from the product, and we've also got information coming from the product category. Now, of course, there's a foreign key between the two of them. So when I hit OK, it's going to generate a query that does a join between the product table and the product category table. So the query designer has a lot of sort of functionality where it can figure this stuff out for you. So like joins, things like that, it knows what to do. So I'm going to hit OK. And now we have our new data set. So first things first, I'm going to create a list in here of pieces of data. I don't want to use just that out-of-the-box functionality that we were seeing in that matrix from before. I want to have a little more control over how this list looks. So I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to select List. I'm going to create a list box, I guess, here. And what I can do within the list box, what am I looking for in here? Come on. What I can do in here is I can add additional text, additional photos, all sorts of things like that. And I believe actually I should be able to just drag these guys right on. So I can drag in the product name, product number, list price, and category. So I'm going to move product name, maybe say right about over here. And I'm going to move the product category. Oops. And I'm going to, you see how also it's snapping to location. So this is actually giving me a lot of control or a lot of sort of help in making these individual fields line up with one another. So this is going to look really, really sharp when I finally do publish it out. So actually I'll scoot these over just a hair. And a couple of things that I can do in here. First of all, let's say I can say the list price. Well, the list price, what is a list price? It's not text, it's currency. So let me, I can go to my text box properties, I think. No, it wasn't there. I believe it is in here. Format. So I can format this. Well, I suppose I can format in here. Hold, please. I'm just trying to find that spot. I had it before.
So not quite as intuitive as the Power BI desktop in terms of manipulating things, but it's definitely
yeah, definitely
back
the
to an
case.
older, yeah.
Here we go. So what I did here was actually I right-clicked on here. I think there's a way to do it in here, but I can't remember exactly right now. But I can go to my text box properties, like numbers. So this is what we're actually using. So I can say currency, and so it'll do it as a currency, and I can let the decimal places be or not be. Product number. What do we have in here? I can make this guy we'll leave it as a default number, and I'll leave these guys alone as well. So what I could also do in here, this guy is, if I select it, it's going to, here we go. So here we see the format now, very much like you might expect in Excel or something like that with your custom formats. We can also set things like alignment, text alignment. Maybe I want to left align. Let's just say that. And also within here, I can add a text box. I can let's do that. Let's make that a little taller.
I think Adam Ferrari dropped off. It's a good thing, because if he saw you left aligning a dollar amount.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't do that, but just to show that you can get yourself in a lot of trouble.
And Sharath had asked a question. I don't know, James, if you know the answer off the top of your head, but when you set up the header and footer, well, maybe it's not the header and footer. You're saying even just like repeating groups. Can you opt to have it repeat on each page or not when you're doing the export to PDF?
You're saying the header and the footer itself, can you tell it to not repeat the header on each page?
Yeah, header, footer, and maybe even like, section groups if you're doing something like that.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but what I will say is if you wanted to, you could probably just put the header in the body, and that would effectively do the same thing.
Yeah, in SSRS, I think you used to be able to, but that's a good question. I'm not sure on this one.
I'll make these. So I'm going through a couple of things here just to make it sort of clear that you have a lot of control over how all of this functions. Whoops, wrong one.
So for anybody, by the way, that was an SSRS user and is looking to convert reports to paginated in Power BI, there is a tool called the RDL migration tool that lets you do it. We've played around with it a little bit and used it a couple of times. I think that might be a good demo for a future user group call if folks are interested. So if anybody is, feel free to mention in the chat or say something.
All right, and so the last thing I'm going to do in here is something really nifty. I'm going to drop an image into this list here. And actually, we'll just align it properly. And we'll call it the product. Good enough. And so in here, I can choose from a database. I can choose from that thumbnail photo that I brought in. And I believe this is a JPEG, so I'll set it as a JPEG and hit OK. And so now this is going to take that photo itself and put it in each of these list items. All right, so that was a lot of individual pieces here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this up to the service, Power BI service. And who am I connected as? Good. So I'm going to save this to the paginated report demo. This is how you would do a publishing in paginated reports. And I'm going to call this list, just so people know that's mine. And so I'll save that up, and I'll take a moment.
James, a question too, is this saved as an RDLX or PBIX? I think it's an RDL, isn't it?
I believe it's an RDL, yep. So it's actually RDL, so basically the same as SRS, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think SRS saves as RDLs.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so now we see we have that new report, and I can open it up. And if we wanted to, we could have added parameters to these reports, things like that, where you could filter down the list. But as you can see here, I've got my image with the repeating bits of information. I've got my name, that was that text box, the actual product name from the database, the price, left aligned, as Jared told me not to do. I will say when you leave this as not left aligned, it looks kind of funky because it hangs out over here. I like it nice and close to the text box, but don't tell Adam. And as you can see, obviously, it's just we've got all of these products, and we can move forward. Go like page 15, let's say. I might have to hit enter. There we go. And so now we have some different bikes. So this is Microsoft's AdventureWorks database. So lots of bikes and biking equipment in here. So that is about it for the demo. Does anyone have any questions about all of that?
So there's a question, if it's an RDL, can that be published to SSRS? I want to say no. I haven't actually tried it. In terms of the other direction, if you have an SSRS RDL, there is a tool that lets you do a migration to a Power BI RDL, but I mean, that might be a fun thing to try and see how badly it breaks.
Yeah, I mean, Jared, I'm kind of the opposite. I want to say yes, but I think you do it at your own risk.
Well, there's certain things that aren't there's certain things that SSRS supports that Power BI paginated reports does not yet. That list is getting smaller and smaller over time. But the other direction, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have not tried it personally, but it would be an interesting thing to test out.
James, do you want to try to export this to PDF and see if there's any options that allow the header?
Oh, I see. Export to PDF. It did not give me any options.
Okay.
So, well, let's see what I have here. Page view. What does page view do? Oh, okay, that's what that does.
What's page settings? Is there anything in there? Yeah, not much.
No, there is not. I'm trying to think. There's some of these might be. Yeah, it doesn't look like that is a functionality that they have allowed for yet.
We had that. So just because of that reason, I think 1 year back we ended up choosing a different tool instead of the paginated reports. That's what I was trying to see if things, right, every table gets, like, if it is a table with a lot of like 7-8 columns of information, and if it has that header, then we needed control saying repeat those headers in all those pages where the data shows up. And also if there is one row which has like 5 to 6 lines, and if that is the last row in a table, it should automatically move over to the next page because the users did not like the data being split between 2 different pages. One at the end of the page initially, and then the next page, it starts with half information.
Oh, you're saying it was splitting it right in the middle of a row?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there might be some settings in the report builder itself that let you kind of define some of the repeating headers and features. I just don't know if there's any way to do it on the print dialog itself, but
okay. I learned.
Yeah, so there's a display header for this page. So I guess if you had multiple Yeah, not sure. Yeah, it'd be worth exploring a little bit deeper there. And then the same thing for groups. Sometimes you want them to repeat, or like table headers, sometimes you don't.
Any other? Go ahead.
Yeah, James, can you show one of the nice things you could actually download the RDL from service? So you could connect paginated reports to a Power BI data set. You could also connect them to, it's on the data set. You could also connect them to, a database or the Power BI data set. So yeah, you have that feature right there to download the RDL. It may or may not work depending if you have the latest version, but
yeah. Yeah, I probably do not. So yeah, but you would be able to download it and then use it in your most updated version.
Yeah, and the nice thing there is now your paginated reports and your ad hoc Power BI reports are all using the same semantic model. So it's you're going to get the same exact numbers. All right. Anybody, any other questions? Sharath, when you get a chance, at some point, try downloading that PBIX again. Because I just created one, and after a little while, it let me download it. So I don't know. I don't know what the magic combination is that lets you download the PBIX when you create the report in Synapse.
It is letting me download as well now.
Okay.
Okay.
So it just took a little while. But the weird thing, though, is it's a direct query report. So when you publish it again, any changes you make to the data set are going to affect the data set that's already there. So just use caution.
Yep, makes sense. Good to know.
Yeah, there's a couple things like that in Power BI. Like right after you create a workspace, sometimes you can't do things. You need to wait like 5 minutes for it to finish creating everything in the background, like instead of changing icons, things like that. But
Sure, I think it was syncing something in the background.
Right.
All right. Any other questions on this stuff? I think that it just about covers the paginated reports. I'm not sure who I'm throwing it back to.
Yeah, I think we're all set, James. If nobody else has any questions, I just want to thank everybody for coming and thank you to our presenters. And we will be planning another PUG for January or February to kick off the new year. So we hope everybody has a great holiday season, and thank you for attending. I know you guys are probably really burnt out from sitting at your computer for long hours, so we're glad that everybody could be here tonight. And we hope that you enjoy the presentations.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. I'll catch you later.